What are you wearing?
It's about this large shirt off Amazon.
Kind of like this large bench we bought off of Amazon?
That's this bench. It has a wall, and we found it. And tearing it down unlocks a fourth movement nobody reviewed. This is the JFHID 3-in-1 converging bench. Decline, flat, incline. It is plate loaded, and it does have independent converging arms for a fixed bench position. It's around $300 on Amazon.
We've been training on this for about 30 weeks. Not just a quick unbox and film, actual workouts.
Before we get into what it does and doesn't do, let's talk about what's actually in this thing. Because the internet has been guessing. I put calipers on it, and it's averaging around 2.5 millimeters. So this is a budget steel machine, no question, but it's consistently coming in better than the 14 gauge everybody assumed that it was. For that price point, that's a genuine surprise, and it is worth knowing. Before we get into the movements, here's everything you need to know to decide if this deserves your floor space. Your floor space, footprint. This thing takes up space and it doesn't give it back. There's no fold, there's no collapse, no wall storage option. If it folded vertically into itself, it'd be a completely different conversation for a living room gym. It doesn't. Where you put it is where it lives. So be honest with yourself about your floor plan before you decide to buy this.
We made it work, but it is a commitment. Know that going in.
Plates. It takes 2-inch Olympic plates. It's what it's designed for. That's what we used on it. We did not try 1-inch because they just don't fit. Padding, it's fine. It's exactly what you'd expect from a $299 machine. Holds you in position, it's comfortable enough for a full workout, and it does its job. Nobody's buying this at this price point should be expecting commercial grade foam. That's okay.
It's appropriate for what it is.
After 3 weeks of actual workouts on this, 0 squeaks, 0 creaks, it arrived with no scratches, which honestly surprised us on a budget piece. The only wear we've seen is on the weight horns from plates sliding on and off. Everything else looks like the same as it was on day one.
So for a $299 machine, that's a better durability story than we expected.
And on price, this sits in the competitive budget category. There are cheaper options out there, there's more expensive ones. But after weeks of real training on this, our honest take is that for the money, this is a good buy. You know what you're getting, and it delivers on that. Assembly is pretty straightforward. There aren't a lot of pieces here, so you're not going to spend a weekend on it. Now, everything we just covered is about whether this machine fits your space and your budget. What we haven't talked about yet is whether it fits your body. And that's where this review tends to get a bit interesting. On the flat, this machine does exactly what it promises. The converging arms give you that natural arc. Both grips feel solid, and the independent movement means each side is working on its own. No letting your dominant side bail you out when you need it.
And the 2 grip options are a nice touch, neutral and pronated. I use both, depending on what I'm going after.
So flat press is where both of us agree completely. No complaints, no caveats. It just works. I don't even know if I said that right, but we're gonna roll with this. Watch Perrin on the decline. Legs lock into the roller, head is supported, position is clean. She's comfortable, she's stable, and the converging arc works exactly the way it should.
I'll be honest, the decline position feels a little weird at first. I don't do a ton of decline work, so laying back like that takes a second to really get used to. But once I'm locked in, it feels solid.
Now here's where the fixed hardware starts telling a story. The leg roller on this machine is completely fixed. No up, no down, no in, no out. It sits exactly where the factory put it, and that's where it stays. At 5'11", I have 2 options. I lock my legs in comfortably and my head comes off the end of the bench, or I slide up to get my head supported, and now I have to really crank my legs to reach the roller. Neither position is right, and because the converging arms are fixed to the frame, wherever my body ends up is where I'm pressing from. I can't shift to find the correct arc. I can do decline on this machine, I have, but it's never comfortable and it's never clean.
I think this is the pattern we keep seeing with this bench. Same machine, completely different experience depending on your frame.
You know, and that's not a flaw. It's a fitment reality, which is exactly why we have two people reviewing this instead of one. And that same fixed hardware pattern we just showed you on the decline is exactly what led us to something nobody else found on this machine. And we're gonna get there eventually. Before we get to incline, one thing worth knowing, the lever arms slide up and down this upright and lock into position with a clip latch. That adjustment is metal, same budget steel as the rest, of the machine, but here's the thing. For that adjuster to slide at all, it has to have some slack in the upright. Better systems use a pop pin or a set screw to cinch that slack out once you've locked into position. This one doesn't, so under load, you're feeling rubber pad compression and slack in the upright moving together.
Feels a little like a slight bounce at the bottom of the rep.
No, exactly. Control your negatives on this machine, not just for better muscle engagement, which is always true, but because you're asking budget steel with no cinch mechanism to absorb your slop over time. Treat it like a tempo press, not an issue if you're training with intention. Okay, so incline is where this fitment story peaks and where we start closing in on the fourth movement. This machine is listed as a 10 position incline, but let's talk about what that actually means in practice. And this is also where we start building towards that fourth movement I mentioned in the hook and a couple other times. The top two holes, neither of us can use for chest press. The bench doesn't slide forward or backwards, so at those steep angles, you're sitting too far forward relative to the arms. The geometry just doesn't work for chest press regardless of your frame size. From hole 3 downward, it starts getting interesting. For Perrin, hole 3 and a few below are still functioning more as a shoulder press angle than a chest press. Keep going down and it transitions into upper chest territory, then mid chest as you approach flat.
So my usable chest press range on this machine is probably 5 or 6 positions depending on what I'm going after. And they all feel good. The convergence is clean and I get a solid contraction.
For me, it comes down to one position for incline chest press, 30 degrees. And here's the thing, that's not just settling. 30 degrees is widely agreed upon as an optimal angle for incline pressing. Most coaches, most researchers, most experienced lifters land right there. The machine's geometry and my frame meet at the exact right place. I'm not hitting a wall at 30 degrees, I'm hitting the sweet spot. That contraction is as good as anything I felt on any machine at any price point. Now, some reviewers found that if they face the pad at the top positions, you can get a shoulder press movement out of it. Danny over at DD Fitness showed this, and he was right that it works, but he wasn't really feeling it either. And honestly, for good reason. With the bench still inclined, it's doable, but it's not an optimal or comfortable position to press from. And look, nobody in their right mind should be shoulder pressing facing away on a lever-based system. The weight travels back and away from you. That's not a press, that's a recipe for a bad shoulder day. So we kept thinking about it. Let's talk about the 1,300 pound capacity claim because it's misleading if you don't know what it actually means. That number is the total static load across the entire machine. Your body weight counts towards it, the weight you store on the rear horn counts towards it. The weight on each arm counts towards it. It's not 1,300 pounds across the lever arms, not even close. In real world training, I'm comfortable at 115 pounds per arm. That's 230 pounds of moving load on the independent converging arms. That's a meaningful workout for most people. Could I go heavier? Probably, but at that point, you're pushing the limits of what budget steel and that adjusted mechanism were designed to handle repeatedly over time. It's better to train smart.
But for most home gym lifters, the weight capacity is never going to be the limiting factor on this machine. Your fitness will be.
All right, fourth movement, put the bench completely flat. sit directly under the handles, no back support. That's it. That's the movement. You're not fighting the arc anymore. You're sitting right inside it. The handles travel exactly where a shoulder press should go. Turns this from a 3-to-1 to a 4-to-1.
And the difference between this and what Danny showed is night and day. This feels like a machine that was built for this movement.
You know, one thing to know for taller lifters with longer arms. At the top of the rep, the handles want to meet in the same space. So I use what I call a staggered stack. Let one hand lead by 1/2 inch in the lockout. The handles nestle inside of collide and get the full contraction.
And at 5'5", I don't need the stagger, but an inch taller and I probably would. If you're on the taller side, this is the move that gets you to the full rep.
No, so this is a legitimate seated military press. No back support means your core is working the entire time. This isn't a workaround. This is a quality shoulder press on a $300 machine that everyone said couldn't do it. They marketed a 3-in-1. We found the 4th movement, and honestly, it might be the best one on here. Here's the hard baseline. That steel is better than anyone told you. It averages around 2.5 millimeters with calipers. We didn't guess, we measured it. The flat press is excellent for both of us. The decline and the incline work beautifully for Perrin. For me, the 30% incline is a sweet spot I genuinely love. The flat is excellent, and the decline, I can tolerate it.
For me, this machine punches way above its price point. The flat, the decline, the incline, I get clean, comfortable reps on all 3. And the military press hack is something I use regularly now.
You know, for me, the flat press is excellent. The 30% incline is genuinely one of my favorite pressing positions on any machine I own, and decline, I can do, but it's never going to be my first choice because the fixed leg rollers put me in a compromised position. I can do all 3 movements on this machine. One of them I love, one of them works great, one, I tolerate. But here's the thing though, we review as 2 people for exactly this reason. Because one person's perfect machine is another person's fitment problem. If you're closer to Perrin's frame, this machine shines. And if you're closer to mine, you need to know what you're walking into before you buy it.
There's something out there for everyone. This might be yours.
This machine doesn't fail. No, it just has a type.
And I'm its type.
Links in the description. If you're on the fence, drop your height in the comments. We're happy to tell you which side of the wall you're on.